Katie, and I'm going to take a minute to show you how and why I contour my face. A lot of questions have been coming in, especially in my Muscles and Mascara Challenge group going on right now, about what the heck this word even means. So I'm going to try to break it down for you super fast and show you what I use and how I use it to contour my face. A couple of things I do want to mention before I get into what I'm actually going to do, which doesn't take very long, is that contouring is not something that everybody needs. Essentially what contouring is it's taking parts of your face that you really like and highlighting them, and taking parts you don't like as much and shadowing them to give you the illusion of a different facial shape. We all as women have different facial structures. Some of us have round faces, some are square, some are more heart-shaped, some are diamond, which is what I would classify myself, thanks to this pointy chin. But we all are different, and maybe you like certain features and maybe you don't like other features, so you want to do things to accentuate different areas. That is the purpose of contouring. You don't necessarily need to do it, and I don't want you to feel like you have to. For me, I think it's kind of fun, and sometimes I really just can't stand my nose and I want to make that look a little bit slimmer, and that's why I use contouring. But there's days when I contour and there's days that I don't, so I don't want you to think that it's something that you absolutely have to do as part of a makeup routine, but I definitely do it probably more than I don't. And I use a couple different products in order to do that. So I already have on here my basic facial setup. I have my foundation on, my concealer, my eyes of course are already on, and that is the point when I usually put on all of the contouring fun. Some people will tell you they contour before they put their foundation on, some will say after. It really is up to you what you prefer. I have done it both ways, and for me it just works better afterwards. So there's two products that I use religiously. One of them is pretty inexpensive. It's by NYX. It's a Wonder Stick. What I like is one end is a highlighter like this, and then the other end is going to have a darker color to help you contour. I use this, and I use the shade light to medium. You can get this at any kind of Ulta store, Sephora. Some Walmarts even carry NYX, I found, and it's relatively inexpensive. This was about $10 or so. It does last quite a while. I use this, and then I also use Anastasia Contour Kit. This is a little bit more when it comes to a financial investment. This is going to cost you about $40. What you get, 6 shades, 3 light, 3 dark, that you can use at your convenience. You don't use very much at a time, so even though it is a little bit more, of course it's going to last you a little bit longer. I don't use a whole lot of anything, so this does last me a while, and I don't always use this every day. Some days I just use the Wonder Stick. It really depends. I use the Wonder Stick first before I get into the powder, and what I use is I use it for a concealer as well as a highlighter, and that kind of helps me and also helps me rationalize the fact that I'm spending money on more makeup products because I'm using this as a concealer and also as a highlighter. The areas that I typically highlight with this product are going to be under my eyes, it's going to be a little bit on my forehead, and then also the creases around my mouth here, this little portion here, and right underneath my chin. Those are also places where natural light tends to hit on me, and I like those areas highlighted. Now, for some people, this is what they want to do when they want to shadow. You may have a really big forehead, and for me, I don't think mine's necessarily huge, but there's some times that I feel, based on how I do my hair, certain areas are just like screaming, hey, look at me. So those are areas that I want to contour and with a darker color to make them not seem as present, if we're going to go there. So if you have a larger forehead, that's one way you can mask it. Like I said earlier, my nose is one region because I feel it's kind of wide here. Don't like it as much, and I really like to accentuate my cheekbones because I just like them, and I think that it's fun to accentuate those. I also usually do a little bit of contouring on my chin because, again, I feel like it's pointy. Sometimes it says, hey, look at me, and I feel like that just gives it a little subtle calming down effect. So let's get started with this. Another tool that you're going to want to use would be these bad boys, blending sponges. I have one for my light colors and one for my dark. Obviously, that's why I have different colors, so I know which is which. The pink one's for the darker, and this one is for the lighter. If you're in my Muscles and Mascara group, you know I love these things. I gave one away earlier in the challenge. You can get them anywhere from Walmart to beauty stores like Ulta. I got these, I believe, at Five Below, and they were relatively cheap, like $2 or $3. It works great. It's better than using your hands, your fingers. I do use brushes when I use my powder, but for this I use the blending sponges. First things first, let's get into the Wonder Stick. I use the light color here. And what I do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to highlight underneath my eyes. Now, before, if you've watched any of my previous makeup tutorials, I use a dark eye concealer that I put on in the crease of my eye, that or a salmon colored concealer to kind of hide those. I'm not necessarily using this to hide any kind of dark circle. This is more, like I said, to highlight the area because I've already covered those with the other product, which the product I use typically is NYX Dark Eye Concealer. Check it out, pretty cheap. Like NYX, obviously like this here. So what I do is I go underneath here and I make a triangle that's kind of outward, like this. Most people, when they're putting on highlighter, they don't know which direction they want it to go. They don't know, they try to follow, you know, maybe what I'm doing or what somebody else is doing. Again, look at your facial shape. Go online, do some different YouTube searches if necessary to find what's gonna work best for you. And just look in the mirror and see what you like. Once I put that on here, then I start checking out this schnoz here. Go right up here, and then I branch into this area as well. I like a little bit of natural light to hit that area. Not a ton. Like I said, if you have a bigger forehead, you may not want to be putting a ton of this stuff on there because it's just going to be radiating, look at me, and you may not like that. I go right down here, right down like this, and I go into my creases right there. So I'm starting to look a little bit like I've got a war paint thing going on. Trust me, you'll be happy that you contour. Once I get that on there, I do use the blending tool and I blend it on here. And I just start kind of from the one side of the face and work the other side. Again, you may find a way that you like to do it better, and that's totally fine. Do something that works for your facial shape. Like I said before in other videos with makeup, you've got to use what works for you. Otherwise, you're going to look like a clown. You're not going to feel comfortable. You're not going to feel beautiful. And that's what makeup is helping you do, is helping you just really accentuate the beautiful stuff that you've already got going on. So don't do anything to make you look strange. Keep on blending. I love these little sponges. They really are great tools, and inexpensive tools. You can use these as well when it comes to any kind of foundation application or concealer application. I use brushes for that, but I have used this in the past. You just want to roll and blend it in. If you have done your eyes already, like obviously I have here, this little step here not only will highlight, but it's going to hide anything that maybe has fallen over the course of your application of your eye makeup, which for me, that happens a lot if I'm not using my eye tool. So I'm just going to keep blending this here, get it going on. Lovely, like that. It's kind of hard to tell when you're looking at this video in the light what's going on with it, but for me, I can see clearly that the light is hitting it in a different way, and that's what I'm all about doing. When you're out in natural sunlight, of course, it's going to kind of accentuate it more. If I had $1 for every time I said accentuate in this video, I probably would have a lot of money. Let's move on into the darker color of the Wonder Stick. Now this is what, like I said, going to hide imperfections or create shadows in areas that you maybe want to create those. What I'm going to do is put this on here, and then I'm going to go into my contour kit that I already mentioned, and I just kind of blend a little bit more with some of those shadowy colors. This thing is going right for the nose. I'll tell you that right now. I go right along this bone here, and I just start, just like a crayon, that's why I like it. Like that. Again, I'm going to blend it, don't you worry. I also take this color and I go right out here, because I do feel like my forehead sometimes is a little bit wider over there, and I like to check that area out. And then I'm going to go right underneath my cheekbone. Cheekbones, like I said, for me are an area that I love, and I want them to stick out as much as possible. So I'm going to do the typical fish face to get right underneath there to blend it, because I'm going to put my blush on here when I'm all done with this look. Looking good. And then of course I put a little bit right down here, just on the end of that area. Now some people will put it in other areas. Really depends, like I said, again, on your facial shape. Do what works for you. I'll say that a lot. Then I take my sponge for that, and then I just start going to town blending that in. Now again, I'm trying to give the illusion of a slimmer nose. So I'm blending this. I'm going to go over the top part with a lighter color as well, with the shadow. This is giving the initial illusion. Blending this in here. Go down here. And then into the cheeks. So that is blended. For me, like I said, that's the area that I'm always going for, and this right here. Now I'm just going to get into the powder portion, and I do use brushes for these. If you've ever followed me on Facebook or read any posts, you know my favorite brush maker is this lady from Target, Sonia. I don't even know how to say her last name, but I don't care. Love the brushes. I got a really cool set a while back from there. They had 6 brushes, all in different colors, 2 purple, 2 green, and 2 blue. And the blue ones are awesome because these are the kind that I like to use for contouring. As you take a peek at them, you see there's an angle. That way when you're going up in the direction you're moving, this is going to help you with all of that. I use a smaller one when it comes to this little portion here, when it comes to my nose. And then I actually use a couple other brushes when it comes to the highlighting. So I'm going to go in here. I use typically this darker color at the end. I believe it's called Havana, don't know. Do a little blow. And then I'm just kind of blending it in this way with the brush. You may think this looks like a lot of work. I usually do it at a much faster speed if I'm not talking and I'm not focused on what I'm doing. Again, if you have issues that you want to conceal, it's definitely worth it. Totally up to you. You may think it's too much work and not want to do it, and you don't have to. Just going over this area again. Over on the side. Same with this area over here to highlight. And then I use the bigger brush when it comes to the cheekbone areas. Just get some on there. Again with the fish face. And you can kind of see already with me doing that, the powder is a little bit more prominent, how that shows. Right? Cheekbones, a little bit more pronounced, not so much. Yes, no, maybe so. And to the other side. Once that's on, back to that bad boy. Then I grab another one of my highlighting brushes. I use one of my lovely little pink numbers to just do a little bit of the highlighting just to sweep across. For me, like I said, I've said like 10 times, the cheekbones are the main focus, so I don't want to take away from it. I just do a little bit extra highlighting with this, even though I don't necessarily need to, just to, you know, make things pop a little bit more. I use this one here, go right down there. And that is that. That's called contouring Katie style. After this, I would put on my blush. That would, of course, go right here on the apples of my cheeks. But sometimes the way you contour, you may not even need to use blush. All depends on your preference with that. I like a little bit of a rosy cheek, so I do put a little bit on here typically. Products you can also use if you're big into bronzers. You can rock one of those out. I've used that too if you have a little bit more shimmer to it. Depends how dramatic you want to go. And again, you don't have to do anything if you don't want to. But hopefully this helped you see just a little bit of the basics. I encourage you to try it, play around with it. If you don't want to go all crazy on this bad boy, there's plenty of cheaper options that you can try before you invest in something a little bit more. And again, this Wonder Stick is an awesome product that you can get for relatively cheap. Double up as a concealer, use as needed, play around with it till you get comfortable, and then you'll be ready to contour. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope it helped. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.